so I finally made the call, and I remember a man answering the phone, and I don't remember all of his questions, but I think he surely must have asked when my last menstrual period was, and I told him, but I do remember his response, and it was, "You need to come, and you need to come now, because if you wait, I won't do it." And I caved. I went, and the young man, the father of the baby, drove me. It was in Kansas City. I was an illegal abortionist, but I mean, just drove to Kansas City, knew right where the guy was. It was right downtown. I remember going up to the second story of this building, and it was in my psyche, in my heart, it was the darkest, coldest, worst place I've ever been in my life, and I had an abortion.
What were the long-term effects for you as a young woman as you proceed on through your life of having an abortion, giving up a child for adoption? We talked about how your psyche and your heart felt that day it was the darkest place. What happened when you left? Were you relieved? Did you feel as though, okay, this is taken care of, I've learned my lesson, we're not going to do this anymore? Or was there some really traumatic effects?
I remember we had to stay all night at one because it was a long trip, and I'd never been in a motel room with a guy, and I had all of those like fantasies that, wow, we had just been through something profound together, and I'm amazed now. But those are the things that were in my mind, and so we spent the night, and I remember the pain, the physical pain, and no comfort, coming from him at all. And we drove back, but he stopped along the way. He had friends at a town that was midway, and so we spent a day, it was a Sunday, we spent a day with these friends of his. It was a couple, and I remember walking in, I didn't know who they were, and the guys, went and got some beer and watched football on TV, and I was left with this woman who knew what I did, and the shame, it was like a mantle of shame just covered me, and it was there for years. The long-term effects of my abortion, and to finish the story, he then took me home, and I never saw him again. He was gone. To being abandoned and thrown away, I began to live out the shame. Did I get better? No. I was still looking for somebody to save me. And just continued to live that kind of life. I know, looking back, that my friends probably would have said I was warmly distant. I couldn't let anybody know me. I told no one about that abortion. No one. Not my parents, not a pastor. I ended up getting married when I was 21, and I'm still married to my husband, who's a wonderful guy, but I couldn't tell him. He knows about the adoption, but he knows now. But for 30 years, I never told another human being for 30 years because I was so ashamed. It was something I just couldn't deal with. I had destroyed a life, and I was a murderer. it affected everything. It affected absolutely everything in my life. And I didn't know that, but I do know that now. Everything I did, that abortion affected, and the shame affected. I couldn't let people get very close. You know, I was always a great listener, but I didn't let my friends get very close because I just couldn't let them know, you know, what a black heart I had.
I know that there are women watching right now in our audience that are thinking, oh, you know, I find myself in that exact same place. You know, just get past that. Tell me what happened that gives her hope now that she's on this program sharing her story. What happened? What changed? Was it your marriage to your husband? Was it that you finally confided in a friend? What changed your heart, Lorraine, from black to the heart full of love and grace and mercy that it is today?
That thing is Jesus. Truly. That's what happened to my black heart. In the 30 years that I didn't tell, I couldn't even pray about my abortion. I went to church, you know, but I didn't really have a relationship with the Lord. I really didn't. Not a deep heart relationship with Him. But God was pursuing me, and I came to a place where my relationship deepened with Him, and I remember just so vividly, I just kept thinking about my abortion, and like I said, I mean, I still couldn't pray about it. I would just say, "Thank you, God, for healing me," or "Thank you for forgiving me," and that was it. Because even to pray about it, I'd have to think about the details, and that was still just, ooh, it was too raw, and I was unable. But you know, God is the hound of heaven, and I just felt like, you know, there was something that just kept propelling me to think about it, and I actually knew about the pregnancy center in town, and I would get their newsletters. And I actually had a friend who was involved there, you know, many years ago, and I can't tell you, 3-4 times I had filled out the little application to be a volunteer. I would send my money for the training, and then I wouldn't go. Mm-hmm. I just couldn't go. But during this time when God was just really after me, a month rolled around that I knew the newsletter would come and they would have another training, and I just felt God had said, "This is it. You will go." And I was both excited and terrified. I wanted it so badly. I wanted it so much. I wanted to be healed, and yet when I thought about it, of actually opening that door to all of that, it felt like I was, I mean, these are my thoughts. I felt like I was standing at a precipice, and then when I opened the door to that I would fall, and that I would fall forever into pain, and and that all of this life, you know, that was fake in a way that I'd built, you know, that all the fences would come down, and I'd be overwhelmed with, you know, the blackness there, and but I wanted to be healed, and so when the newsletter came, I signed up for the training and told my husband, who was surprised. I said, "Oh yeah, I've always wanted to do that," and went to the training and cried through the whole thing, and actually wrote on that little application that yes, you know, I had experienced an abortion, and came for training, and they gently suggested that I would probably benefit from abortion recovery, which is what I wanted, and actually went through a program with a lady, and just she and I sat down and I said for the first time to another human being, I had an abortion. And I can't tell you how freeing that was. And then of course I did volunteer in the pregnancy center, and I sat, day in and day out in the counseling room with young women, who were right where I was at 16, and was able to say, I made that decision, and it hurt me so bad. And it took me a good 6 months working in the pregnancy centers, saying to other people, I've had an abortion, before I could tell my husband. And I finally did. And, his main question was, why did it take you so long to tell me? 30 years is astounding, but I just was, that shame just wouldn't let me do it.